Welcome back. This is Jocelyn Stewart, and if you have made it to screening class number 2, congratulations. It means that you are eligible to attempt to upgrade your discharge to the Discharge Review Board, okay? If you're here, it means you've gone through that funnel and you know that you're not statutorily barred. You're not prevented from asking. Now we're turning, I honestly think, to the toughest question in front of you. And that's going to be, even if I am eligible to apply, should I? So understand that it's a big decision. And I'm put this class together because I get asked and called all the time, and sort of this misunderstanding that maybe you've encountered a certain experience in your life and you feel that because it relates to your military service, that if you're able to upgrade your discharge, it's going to fix this thing, this barrier, this obstacle that you're running into. And a lot of times that's just not the case. Okay. So, firstly, who do I think should not apply? Right. And let me preface this all by saying it's up to you. Ultimately, when I get a category of people who I don't think should apply, I won't take your money to make you become a client. I won't work with you and ask for thousands of dollars out of your pocket because I know in my heart that it's not going to get you what it is that you want, right? If you know me at all, if you followed me on social media as a messy military lawyer or on Instagram or through my blog or through my YouTube channel, then you know that I am not somebody who's here to just take your money and be a used car salesman. It's just not who I am. My firm's philosophy at UCMJ-defender.com is that we want to be in the place where we can do the most good. And a lot of times that means us telling people no, that we won't take you on as a client. And it's not because we're padding our numbers. It's because we care about human beings. And we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and know that we're doing the right work for the people for whom we actually have a chance to help. That's not to say that you can't go do it on your own. Some people need that catharsis. Like I'm somebody who also is a huge proponent and a big talker about behavioral health. And if that's what it takes for you to like at least get it out on paper and to move forward in that way and to know that you've tried, good on you, right? Understand that this is my personal experience over the last 23 plus years and helping veterans, right? And where I lie and where I'm willing to give the help. Okay. My first category of people who I do not think should apply, if you believe that upgrading your discharge, that you can be put back into service. I get that call a lot. A lot of people are really upset about the way that they left. And I'm not here to invalidate your experience or to tell you that it's, not unjust the way that you left. But understand that the Discharge Review Board does not have that power. That power may lie with somebody else, depending upon what it is that your express issue is. But the Discharge Review Board is not going to be the ones to be able to help you get back and reinstate you into service. They just aren't. And so you shouldn't apply there. You'll get that one pager that says, thank you for playing. No, we can't do this for you. So it's also really important to remember what it is that you're going to be asking the Discharge Review Board for. Okay. The DRB cannot reinstate you. Okay. You should not reapply. You should not apply to the DRB if that's your whole end game, is that you want to get put back in. My second category of people who I do not think should apply, or if you think that by upgrading your discharge, this means that you're going to be able to purchase a firearm. I get a lot of calls from people who are veterans who are like, yeah, I got out, I got a general discharge, and they somehow correlate that with now going in front of a place to purchase a firearm and being told there's something from your background that's military related that's preventing you from being able to, purchase this firearm. Understand that what's actually the barrier to you being able to apply, to you being able to get that firearm in your hand and be able to purchase it from this dealer is what happened as a result of the titling and indexing decision by military law enforcement. It's very frustrating for people. It's frustrating for me personally. It's frustrating for me on behalf of clients that I have walked this path with. Even if, let's say, you were back in service back in the day and you came under military law enforcement investigation, you were titled or indexed, you were put into this, the National Center for Information and Crime database, the NCIC. If you go back and they made a probable cause determination that you committed whatever offense that they think you committed, that's what's flagging your application for the firearm, not your discharge. Yes, like in your mind, they're kind of conflated because maybe as a result of that investigation, they decided not to pursue a conviction, but they administratively separated you. They chaptered you. You got out because of that same incident. You're thinking, hey, if I upgrade my discharge, that means I'll be able to have my firearm. And that's just simply not the case. The only way to try to somehow get your ability to buy that firearm, because this dealer is looking at your NCIC or looking at your federal background check to say that you can't have it, is to attack the actual titling and indexing decision that goes through a very different channel and has a very different standard. I'll be honest with you, and you should try to find the blog on my website, and I'll try to insert it if I can get super creative and have somebody help me. But we talk a lot on the blog about this systems revenge is the name of the blog post, right? When you've gone through that military law enforcement investigation, even if they didn't prosecute you for it for 40 years from the date of that indexing and titling decision, anybody who runs that background check on you is going to find that as an arrest. It probably won't have a disposition. So NCIC also has places to say kind of like the rest of the story, what happened. Military law enforcement is rather famous or infamous for never putting in that disposition of like what the F happened with it, right? And so that person, the firearms seller is going to see that you have an arrest for insert. It might be assault. It might be sexual assault. It might be larceny, who knows, whatever is going to be on that under that person's radar. If it's being shown there as coming up as an arrest, they're probably not going to sell you that firearm. And the only way to go about trying to undo that is to ask military law enforcement channels to undo it. That's a whole other matter. And in large part, we are very powerless to be able to do that. I've only applied a couple of times on behalf of, I think, 3 people in my career when I thought earnestly that we had a shot. So if that's your issue, you may want to check out the blog to read a little bit more about it. I generally won't do consultations on this because I don't want to take your money to tell you the same thing that a video that I have out there or that I've written up as a blog post to explain it to you can't do for you, because I just don't think it's right to take your money when it's all just right there, kind of black and white. So my second category of who should not apply are people who are trying to be able to get a firearm, because really what you're caring about is that titling and indexing decision that military law enforcement made as a result of your arrest. And again, don't get this misidea that I've got it wrong because you were never handcuffed and put in the back of a squad car. If you were brought down to military law enforcement and your command brought you there or gave you an escort and made you go there and you had to go get read your rights by military law enforcement, that counts as an arrest. That's how that gets inputted into NCIC. And that's what the firearms person is seeing on the other side of this background check. Okay. So really can't help you. Really don't think you should apply if that's your reason. Because again, we're here to try to help you get to whatever it is that you need to accomplish, not to just take your money needlessly. My third category of people who I do not believe should apply are if you believe that by upgrading your discharge, that it's somehow going to make you get this job for which a security clearance is required, right? I get a lot of questions and a lot of requests for consult from people who are like, I'm applying to become a security guard. I'm applying to become a law enforcement officer. And there's this thing in my history from when I was in the military that I'm now, again, kind of very similarly to the last category, that I'm conflating and I'm confusing with that situation where I had that experience with military law enforcement, and now I want to be law enforcement. And so we also get requests to expunge, not a thing in the military. The only way to get rid of a military conviction is to ask for a presidential pardon. Good luck, unless you've got a lot of money and you have a political family, and or both, right? So people who I don't think should apply to upgrade the discharge are people who think that if you upgrade your discharge, you're suddenly going to get that job that requires a background check that you haven't been able to get because you had something in your past. Again, it's that encounter with military law enforcement in the titling and indexing decision that's preventing you. Because if you, and this can also be confusing to some people because you didn't understand that when you went down and got read your rights at, OSI or NCIS or Army CID or CJIS even, that constituted an arrest. So it's possible that when you were filling out your job application for insert, job that's going to require a background check or some type of like security clearance, that you didn't check that you had been arrested before. Because in your mind, you didn't get arrested because you sort of have this Hollywood idea that most of us do, right? If we're not legally trained, that I wasn't, handcuffed and put in the back of a squad car. You were arrested. If you were brought down and read your rights, you were not free to go. Your first sergeant had to come sign you out. You had to get signed over to a member of your command. That constitutes an arrest. And that's what's showing up in your federal background, which is preventing you from getting that job. So while they may be related in that it relates back to your military, law enforcement encounter, one will not fix the other. Upgrading your discharge is not going to undo a titling or indexing decision, and it's not going to magically give you that job that required that background check to begin with. That job may also have decided that they didn't want to give it to you because you didn't check yes, right? So I have a lot of consultations with people who have been my clients and left the military under whatever circumstances that they did, and now they're applying for jobs and they don't know exactly how to answer the questions that are being asked of them. And so they'll schedule a special consultation with me as like a follow-up where we go through those questions, right? And sometimes I'm even hired to help folks navigate how to answer the security clearance update, right? Like when you go to re-up, after maybe it's been 10 years or however long it's been, and you're like, oh, well, I had this thing that happened. How do I navigate answering this in a truthful and honest way? Because I don't want to get myself into more trouble, because lying sometimes on these applications can itself constitute a federal offense. So you should not apply to upgrade your discharge if the reason that you want to upgrade it is because you believe that it's going to somehow fix this job application for you that you're not getting. You're not getting this law enforcement job. You're not getting the security clearance job. You're not getting a job that requires a security clearance because you're thinking that it relates back to your military discharge. It's not the discharge. It's the arrest or the law enforcement record that's coming up. Okay. Moving on to the group of people, number 4, who I do not believe should apply to upgrade your discharge. If your sole purpose, this is a big one, this is a huge one. Everybody pay attention if you're, kind of falling asleep. Hopefully I'm being dynamic enough that you're listening. And remember, you can go back and play this at your leisure. If your sole purpose in obtaining the upgrade is for VA benefits, and you have not already filed to apply for an upgrade for VA purposes only. A lot of people don't even know this exists, right? You are someone who wants VA healthcare, VA care for purposes of like mental health, right? If you need those things, want to be able to be eligible to receive those VA benefits, there actually is an internal system within the VA that will take a look and decide for VA purposes only, are they going to consider your discharge eligible for you to receive those specific VA benefits? Okay. That navigation is going to be way easier for you and way shorter in turnaround time if you do that than if you go through the entire process of trying to upgrade your discharge through the DRB. I promise. Okay. A lot of people don't even realize this exists. A lot of attorneys out there who want to make money off of you don't even tell you that it exists. Shame, 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 shame on those people. You need to understand that category number 4, and it's a big one, if you're only trying to upgrade your discharge because you want your VA benefits, and I'm talking about like healthcare and psychiatric stuff. I'm not talking about like getting a loan for, that's VA backed. I'm not talking about that type of a benefit. I'm talking about like healthcare, psychiatric care, that type of support. If your only purpose to try to upgrade your discharge is because you want those types of benefits, ask the VA first. Call up the VA and say, hey, this is the kind of discharge I got. I really need some health care or I really need some psychiatric care. How can I internally go through your system and apply for those VA benefits that you can look at my discharge for VA purposes only? So that's why my fourth category is pretty substantial. It's those people who are doing it only to obtain those types of VA benefits. Now, obviously, the caveat being if you've already gone through that process and the VA said no, you may not have a great shot anyway. And maybe you're just going to be in a separate category all your own because that makes it maybe that less likely that you're going to be eligible. Not saying you can't, but I'm just, again, this is going to the should you, kind of looking at whether or not your chances are super great. Okay. So you should not go through this entire class that's going to become available to you if you want to purchase it for actually going through the DRB process. If your only purpose is, to get your VA benefits and you haven't already asked the VA internally. Okay. So my next category of people who I do not believe should apply is, and this is another kind of, one that often breaks people's hearts, is if what you really are asking for is medical retirement. The DRB is limited in their authority, as I've alluded to in the first screening class and certainly said a couple of times here in this screening number 2 class. The DRB only has the authority to do 2 things. That is to change the upgrade on your discharge, which is talking about the characterization, right? General under honorable, under, other than honorable, or straight up honorable. Those are the 3 administrative ways that people are separated, right? Or the categories and characterizations of their discharge. The DRB can only change that characterization or the narrative reason, right? Like you hear like this code or like what it says. Was it for misconduct? Was it for pregnancy? Was it for like whatever it is, what it's being, the narrative reason that the DRB can change. The DRB can also change it from other than honorable to a general under honorable, other than honorable up to an honorable, and general to an honorable, right? They can change the characterization. They can change the narrative of what it says on the DD 214 or as your narrative reason for getting out. But what they cannot do is grant a medical retirement. And they also can't convert a discharge for like misconduct to a medical separation. They do not have that authority. Doesn't mean there's not authority elsewhere, but it's not from the DRB. Okay. So you should not apply to upgrade your discharge if the purpose behind it, the reason behind it is because what you're really seeking is a medical retirement or some type of medical separation. The DRB cannot give that to you. Okay. Who should also not apply yet? This is another one that sometimes can be heartbreaking for people because you're like, okay, I've got momentum. Like it kind of depresses me. It makes me sick to my stomach to think about the circumstances under which I got out. It's already, and always really been troubling to me. And so I've got that like forward momentum. I'm at that point where I'm like, yes, I'm going to get it together. I'm going to get my haircuts together and I'm going to apply. You should not apply yet if you have not what we call exhausted all of your other administrative remedies. What does that even mean? So internal and to a lot of the things that may have happened to you that led up to you being discharged, like all of those administrative actions that came one by one, sometimes at the same time, sometimes, in order. If you haven't separately gone after and availed yourself of all of the remedies that you could as they were coming, then the DRB is really probably not for you because they don't look favorably on applications if you skipped several steps and where you could have asserted your rights, what we call your administrative remedies. They're not going to suddenly say, poof, here's your upgrade, your discharge, when you haven't shown that you went through all the steps. Okay, what does that mean? You're in and you get a letter of reprimand. At the time, you're just like, you know what? I can't deal with this. Fine. And you just don't even respond. Maybe you get crappy legal advice, right? If you don't respond to the letter of reprimand, that's not availing yourself of all of your administrative remedies. If you responded to it, they gave you an official filing, and you didn't go, like if you're in the Army, to the DASEB, which is another board that has the power to remove that letter of reprimand from your official record, you haven't exhausted all your remedies. If you got a bad evaluation, whether that was in the Army, like a non-commissioned OER, NCOER, an OER, an EPR, an OPR, like depending on what your branch is, right? Like if you got a negative evaluation and you didn't do everything that you could either to make comments in response to it, or you didn't appeal it to PERS or to HRC, then the discharge review board is also not going to look as favorably at your application because you didn't take all of those steps, right? If even something as like if you got to go to an administrative separation board and there were errors that happened at your board, if you didn't file a memorandum of deficiencies with the approval authority, the show cause authority, insert whatever term for your specific branch, then you have not availed yourself of all of your administrative remedies. And the DRB, the Discharge Review Board, is not going to, it's sort of like this idea of like, I didn't do all my training, I didn't take all my steps, and I didn't show up to practice. And my coach thinks that I'm going to suddenly, like, I think I'm going to suddenly let my coach go to the state championship. No, nobody. Like, you didn't practice with the blocks, right? You didn't practice your starts. You didn't practice your whatever, the turns, like whatever it is. I'm thinking track, right? My kids are in track. Like whatever it is that are all the incremental steps for you to build to that ultimate, state championship where you're asking the DRB to give you this upgrade your discharge. If you didn't do those precursor steps, they're not going to really look favorably on your application. And so that's why that is my sixth category for who should not apply. If you have not done each and everything that you can at each and every step, and I know that must feel so enormously frustrating because maybe nobody's told you that until today. And you can't go back in time and suddenly avail yourself of those steps. I hope people who are facing potential administrative separation also find this class for this reason, because those folks need to be forewarned. Like you can see it coming from a mile away, right? You're like, oh my gosh, my command is trying to steamroll me. And they're doing each of these steps, right? Setting up the administrative separation process to get me out. They're trying to, take my GI Bill from me. They're trying to take my VA benefits, right? They're doing those things. But if I'm not, as the end user, as the service member, taking each one of those steps to try to stop it, even if it's not going to be successful. And I know this is so frustrating to so many of my clients when I'm telling them, I'm like, look, I'm not saying you're going to win. I'm not saying by filing those comments or asking PERS or HRC, to appeal your bad evaluation. I'm not suggesting that means that you're going to suddenly like wake somebody up and be successful at that point. But the point is that you're putting yourself into the position that by the time you get to the DRB, because it's probably a foregone conclusion, if they want you out, they're probably taking those steps to get you out. You need to be taking all of those incremental steps to prevent it as much as you can. Not because you'll necessarily be successful, but because boards like the Discharge Review Board are not going to look at your application to try to upgrade your discharge very favorably if you have not what we call exhausted all of your administrative remedies, all of those internal steps of due process and appeals that you have for each of one of those things that led up to you getting discharged. And I hate telling people that, but that's just the way that it is. Okay, this is the last category that I'm going to talk about. And this one is also very difficult for people because this one is really more of a judgment call, right? So many people that even after they've paid for a full consultation with me and I've listened and I've heard them out, I know more detailed facts about their scenario. They sort of come back to this like touchstone of like, it's just not right what they did to me. I understand you're telling me that my chances are like nil, like 0.001% chance that I could possibly do it. But you know what? Like it bothers me that I left the service and they didn't say it was honorable. It bothers me that I served for that many years and they're trying to take away that status from me, insert And for some people, it's not even really about the benefits, right? About like the dollars or all of that. It's how their service was characterized. And I call this kind of that retribution reputation purposes. If your driving force is that you want to set the record straight, or you want to seek this like opportunity for someone to acknowledge and validate that what happened to you and that what your command did to you wasn't fair and wasn't right and wasn't just, I'm still probably going to tell you not to apply. And you're like, well, why? Like, and this is why this category is so difficult, because if you have a good job, if you're in a stable environment, if it's not affecting the next job that you get or how you progress in your life, if it really is only for you, then maybe it's still not going to be healing when you get to the end of that discharge review board process and they tell you no. Like maybe that's less healing to you because you've just been, smacked in the face yet again one more time. For some people, they're like, ma'am, I get it. I've heard you. I acknowledge that you're telling me my chances are almost nil, but it's still so important to me that I want to do it. Like if I don't do everything that I possibly can to try to make this right and to try to make this just, then I'm not going to feel good about who I am or which direction I should be going. And it's like, okay, I feel you. Like I hear you. I'm validating your experience. I understand. But part of the reason that I have been successful in the careers that I've had, and I say careers because I've been a prosecutor and I've been a defense attorney, right? And I've been certainly a veteran attorney, and all those kind of mixed in together and sometimes changing sides, right? In every step and every phase that I've ever had, I still have to dispassionately evaluate a case and its chances for success, or I'm not doing my job, right? If I get carried away as the advocate because you're so impassioned about why it is that this isn't just, I'm still not doing my job if I'm like, okay, let's go, right? If I'm just like the lemming that's gonna fall you off the cliff and just accept your money, then I don't think that I'm doing my job. I think it really is my job to look at a scenario and to decide without the passion, right? Without, and I hate to say it, I don't want to like insult anybody out there. I do really mean ego in the truest sense of like what Freud said, like the id and the ego and like where we see ourselves in the world and how we see ourselves in our own minds. Like, I don't mean it as an insult. I mean, like, if it really is just about how you see yourself, then I still am going to probably recommend that you not take the next step and move forward, because for me, it's about chances and odds, right? And calculating the time and energy and money that it's going to require you to put it in. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's your money, it's your time, it's your heart and your sense of peace. And if that is what, is going to move you and make you get to a point where you're like, nope, I still want to do it, then that's on you. But I wouldn't be my job if I wasn't managing expectations. The road to an upgrade is not automatic. It's a slip there. Let me say that again. The road to an upgrade is not automatic and it's not quick. It can take months. It can take more than a year. It takes months of effort to prepare and submit it, and it can take months and sometimes even longer to hear a decision. So for you, it may also, in managing your expectations, be about like, oh gosh, she's telling me it's this hard. And I'm sort of like the unsalesman. You're like, God, I thought, lady, I was going to get to the end of this class and you're going to sell me on why I should move on to the next one. Part of why I do this work is to make sure that I'm being fair, right? That I'm always being honest and that I'm taking care of veterans in the way that I can. If you are still of the mindset that you still want to do this, I still need to manage your expectations about how it's going to be, because it's not easy, it's not automatic, and it can take a really long time to prepare them, and it can take a really long time to hear a result, okay? The other thing that you need to understand as I'm managing your expectations is, again, that need to overcome that presumption of regularity. That really is a very strong force when we're dealing with the legal part of this, because this board is going to presume that because that's the discharge you got, and because that's the characterization you got, and because that's the narrative that's in there, that it must have been done the right way. And you have to present legal and factual evidence to overcome it. Okay. That's going to require legwork on your part. It's not just fill out that DD form 293. If you want to increase your chance for good outcome, anybody can fill out one of those. That's like easy. That is easy. And that is not most likely going to get you anywhere, right? So as I manage your expectations, if you do jump on this train, end up buying the next part of the course, the actual course, because you're not statutorily barred, and you've decided that's a good enough reason for you that you still want to press forward, it's still important to me as the person who's putting this in front of you about managing your expectations. It's not easy, and you have to overcome the presumption of regularity. Now, maybe a little bit of the salesy part here. What this course does provide you is a number of amazing resources. I'm so proud of it. It's taken me a really long time to put together. This is something that I thought of literally years ago. And between casework and my advocacy work and trying to change the process that military folks go through, I have finally sat down and found the time to create and to produce this class. It's on demand. So you have the option of looking at all the courses as soon as it drops, right? Like it's not, sometimes there's sort of this like paternalistic kind of thing. If you want to look at them in a different order, have at it. They will all be available to you on demand. You can go back, rewind, stop, pause, move forward, move backward on your time and in your own way. I believe that I have organized them in a very logical order, but maybe your brain works differently and you want to get to the end, kind of reverse plan. More power to you. You will be able to look at them in the order and as often as you want. Okay. Which is the next point. It's unlimited access to also a number of resources that I've compiled as a part of each course. There are handouts. Maybe you're like a paper person and you're like, okay, this lady talking at me is all well and good. I'm trying to take notes, but for me, I need to see something and print something. So there are also a number of handouts to be able to help you understand, right? So like the slides are put into a handout format. They're also put into different formats because maybe, again, you process information differently. And I didn't want to limit the way that I'm instructing because I know that people process and learn differently. It also gives you literally step-by-step instruction. It's, as simple on the form as like going through the blocks and then giving you tons of examples of how what may have been in your scenario and how that applies and how you should be phrasing it and what kind of evidence more often is going to be what you need to go out and find and get and put as part of your application. In addition, the course is also going to provide you with that fundamental first step that so many people kind of stop before they start. And that's being able to how about you go and obtain your records. I have done the legwork for you. It's by branch. Some of them you can ask for online. Some of them you have to send away and mail off certain things and make copies of this and do that. And it is everything laid out for you because I don't want anyone to buy this class and not have the instruction that they need of how to get to the end, right? And so a lot of folks get overwhelmed and they're like, well, shoot, this person's telling me, maybe you've seen a YouTube video from somebody else. Maybe you've read something online and your eyes gloss over because you're like, oh my gosh, that's so many records. I don't even know how to get that stuff. I can't find anything. I've moved 5 times. I don't remember where that is. We cut that out and we give you all of the instruction that you need on how to obtain your records. I've also created shells. Okay. A shell is like a format that you can follow in the proper formatting to be able to get letters of support, right? Like it's one thing to think, oh, my buddies will write up something for me that's going to be super persuasive. Not necessarily. And so I always tell people, help you. Like if you're asking somebody for something rather than just being like, "Hey man, can you write me a letter about how that bad thing happened? Can you tell me, write a letter for when we were on deployment and XYZ happened?" Understanding the difference between when you should get a letter of support and when you should get a sworn declaration. Helping your buddy, helping your witnesses help you is going to be critical. And so, I don't want people to have those barriers and those challenges to actually completing the application. I'm giving you shells for what they look for. I'm giving you shells for what you need to provide to them. You'll be able to download those to be able to use in your own specific case. And part of the instruction is going to talk to you because so many people um, put forward letters when they really need like a declaration, which is something that a person is swearing to as a factual event that happened. That's a necessary part of your application. Sometimes, you're also going to want letters of support that are just going to say, Billy is a great guy. He's been a great guy since he's gotten out. He's volunteered at his church. You know, insert whatever it is. Sometimes you need a letter, sometimes you need a declaration. And frankly, sometimes people can need both from the same person, right? It's all going to be factually specific. And we lay that out in the instruction, in addition to giving you these shells to help you understand. Also, and what I think I'm also incredibly proud of is the way that I've gone about training you and how you need to frame your arguments. I can't come into everybody's life as their one on one attorney because, again, I'm trying to reach more people than otherwise would be able to be helped. I can't come into your living room. I can't come into your life because that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. But what I have done is formulated training in exactly how it is that you should frame the arguments and how you incorporate the evidence and the support. So it's not just your voice saying it. Your application should never be just a letter from you. Your application should never be just that DD 293. There are incremental steps, and I take you through each one. And I give you handouts, and I give you shells, and I give you all the tools and resources that you need. All of it is taught by me. I have been a professor, and I've all of the classes are taught by me. I was for 3 years an adjunct professor of criminal law and trial advocacy at the Army's JAG School in Charlottesville, Virginia. I am never more alive as when I am teaching. That's why I enjoy my podcast, Where All Their Bodies Are Buried, because for me, it's like I'm having a class. And sometimes that's through having guests on my podcast where we kind of do this tango of going through the question and answer piece of it. And sometimes it's me just explaining legal concepts, new cases that have come out. I'm invited to teach at national conferences of defense attorneys. Prosecutors haven't had me give them any instruction anymore. And when I left active duty as an active duty Army judge advocate many moons ago, I took all of my classes that I had formulated off of the shared access drives so that nobody else could benefit from them on the other side, right? My class of how to cross-examine an accused, poof, it went bye-byes. I love to teach. I know that I'm good at it. And I know that if it's the right fit for you, if you're not statutorily barred, you've got the right reasons for why it is that you want to upgrade, and you have a shot at it, and you move forward to this class, I promise it's a great and holistic opportunity and package to get you the best chance that you're going to have. Thanks. I look forward really to helping you upgrade your discharge. It's just too important. I'm here for all of it. Thank you.